Hello, welcome into Guru's podcast. I am your host, Spencer the Guru, here with my co-host, Commissioner Crook. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, Mr. Spencer. How you doing today?
Doing well. Glad to have you back, man.
Yeah, man. Sorry I couldn't make it last week. You know, we have other jobs and stuff outside of just doing podcasts and talking fantasy sports. So had to handle up on that. But I'm glad to be back to talk about our players to avoid and don't be a sheep players this week, right?
Exactly. Oh, you don't want to be a sheep. Don't want to conform to the general Sheeps' rankings. All that will do is cause you to draft either a mediocre or bad team. You're not going to win your league by being a sheep. You got to think outside the box and take the players that are going to get you over the top. Can't take these players that we're about to discuss, the ones that are, they're just going to lead you to failure. I mean, however, there are a few that could possibly break out, but we're going to discuss all of them and see what we come up with here on which ones that we both disagree about and some that we might kind of just kind of we'll bounce ideas off each other and kind of figure out what are the true players to avoid for this season. And we'll start
and maybe
this
at their
off.
ADP.
Exactly.
ADP.
And that's how we're basing on their ADP, which stands for average draft position. And we'll discuss that to show you guys which players should not be taken at those spots.
Right, because I think some of the guys on our list, y'all might be a little surprised as to maybe why we shouldn't draft them at certain spots. But me and Spencer both agree and disagree on certain topics that you're going to kind of see as the show goes on. It's going to kind of take formation and see where we stand and why I may like a player better than him and he may like a player better than I. These guys might not necessarily lose you the league, some of them, if you take them too high, but it would probably be best if you had a chance to try to wait on these players later on and try to grab something else later on.
Exactly. We want to make you aware of these players so you don't reach on them, because a lot of these guys are the guys that get hyped up by the sheep.
Right, sure. Well, with that being said, you want to start off with the first guy that we're probably going to disagree on as far as
let's
like
get
where
this
he's
thing
going?
started here, and this is a guy to me that the sheep are just hyping up way too much, and that's Le'Veon Bell. I mean, we know Le'Veon Bell's a top running back. He's one of the best players in the fantasy game. However, he's just not worth taking with that first overall selection. I mean, it's just the numbers are not in his favor. His efficiency was down last season.
And he's holding out
again.
A
sluggish start due to that holdout.
Sure.
And it's still lingering. The contract situation is still lingering. He had a dip in efficiency last year. His injury history also isn't very good. So, I mean, I just would not feel comfortable taking him first overall. And all these cheap people are saying, oh, take Le'Veon first. He's the safest pick, And I'm just like, there's not to me. I feel like Gurley, DJ, and Zeke are all much safer picks with more upside.
Well, I think the reason a lot of people are saying Le'Veon Bell should still be that guy, because even though he did take that last mini camp or preseason workouts and preseason off last year and came back, had a sluggish start, and was a little slow to get off the jump, he still ended up with, in receptions, Le'Veon Bell still ended up with 85 receptions for a total of, let's see how many receiving yards. He finished out with, I'm trying to find it as fast as I can, y'all.
He's still a dual threat player.
Right, he's still going to get that. His rushing yards, really he was still top 3 in rushing yards, so I could see why people are still wanting to take him number 1 overall. But I think what we're getting at as far as why not to take him first overall is the holdout and the emergence of Todd Gurley being as dynamic as he is. You and I both agree that Todd Gurley should probably be everyone's top overall pick.
Unless you're in a we can't agree on that. I mean, to me, that's something that even some people saying the sheep are saying Gurley. Honestly, not really. The more I look into it, it seems like more and more of these so-called experts are going with Le'Veon first because they all want to play it safe.
Sure.
You got to take risk even early on. I mean, and to me, it's not really a risk because Gurley, to me, is the safest player. His stats are trending upward. I don't see where he's
And it's a young
risk.
And fresh team, and they have a lot of weapons. Teams can't just stack the box against them. You can make the case that, they can't exactly stack the box against Le'Veon Bell, but in some cases they kind of know that Le'Veon Bell is going to get the ball in a little bit more situations, whereas the Rams, that offense is a little more creative, have more moving parts and stuff like that, that Todd Gurley could get the ball in a it could be a swing pass, it could be a shovel pass, it could be anything in that offense because they're just a little more creative under McVay.
Right.
But I think we should move on and check
moving
out
on here to the late first and a couple running backs. I'm not too big on here that the sheep are really hyping up because they both had huge rookie years last year and know, it's Alvin Kamara and Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, I don't know if we should spend too much time on these two, but to be honest with you, I think both of them should slip to maybe the early second, maybe not quite in the first.
Right.
Personally, I'm higher on Melvin Gordon than both of those guys.
And I'm higher on Leonard Fournette
exactly.
and Saquon Barkley.
So,
They just have other guys out there that are safer bets that are going to get all the carries. Where, I mean, Kamara's just he is a dynamic elite talent, but once Ingram comes back, he's going to lose some carries, and there's no way he's going to keep up a 6.1 yards per carry average. And then with Kareem Hunt, with Andy Reid back calling the plays there in KC, he likes to use multiple backs. I know Hunt's still going to be their guy, but I just don't see him running for as many yards
Kansas
as he
City
did
right
last
now,
season.
We have like 6 running backs in the camp. That's going to be trimmed down. It's probably going to be Hunt, Spencer Ware, and probably Damian Williams that we signed over from the Dolphins from last year. They're all going to probably play a part. I see the latter of the few all maybe making practice squads or moving on. But yes, I do see that they should fall maybe outside of the first or super late, like super late being the 11th and 12th overall pick maybe in your draft. But I've said it before on past podcasts that I think Kamara should be a second-round pick regardless.
In standard leagues, I can see that. For PPR, I still would take him first. In
Kamara,
the first round, yes.
Yeah, but and then this is one guy that we both agree should not even be probably.
Yeah, this is one that the general Chiefs is needed.
I'm staying away from completely wholeheartedly. I'm not drafting
it.
And that's LaShawn McCoy of the Bills.
Exactly, guys. I just do not feel like LaShawn McCoy is going to live up to that second round ADP. I mean, he's got nothing going in his favor right now. Age is not on his side. He's getting to be on the wrong side of 30. His team is not on his side. The Buffalo Bills, their passing game is still extremely weak, and thus is going to lead to tons of stacked boxes week in and week out, and he's going to wear down. He doesn't have the best injury history. He usually plays all 16, but he's always got a hamstring or something
nagging injuries, and then he's getting older.
They're going to work the you-know-what out of him because he's their only offensive piece. So to me, there's just no way I'd feel comfortable taking him in the second round. I want someone that's going to hold up for the full season with upside, and McCoy is just very much not that type of player.
Well, as you say, like, in the second round, you would want to take somebody else. This is a guy that you're probably not high on, but I would take him over LaShawn McCoy in the second round, and that would be Jordan Howard, or maybe even the third round.
I'm not too high on Howard. I'd probably prefer Joe Mixon there. He's the guy I'm big on this year. I know you're big on Howard, but I mean,
I'm bigger on Howard than I am on Mixon, and reason being is just that I believe that the Chicago Bears are going to have a better offense as an NFL team.
I can agree with that.
Versus the Bengals.
But with Cohen there, I just feel like Mixon's going to get more carries, and thus is going to lead to better fantasy value.
I think there's going to be a lot of plays where both of those running backs are actually on the field together. And,
that's the thing. We're
Cohen
not really sure yet. That's a
exactly.
situation to keep an eye on because I'm not really sure how Matt Nagy's going to scheme that.
If you can hit on Jordan Howard, say in the third round, maybe late second, third round, go pair him with, I don't know, a Melvin Gordon or, I mean, you could even maybe pair him with Todd Gurley, and you have 2 solid running backs. I mean, we're not going to sit here and argue that Jordan Howard's an RB1. He's definitely RB2 upside kind of player.
I'm not too big on him. I can admit he's still going to probably deliver RB2 value, especially in standard format. PPR, though, he's very
It could be up and down.
Overdrafted,
it could be very up and down for sure.
There's one, though, here that, to me, is getting very overdrafted, and we can both agree, and that's Kenyon Drake from the Miami Dolphins.
I wish him all the best. If you take him, I think you're going to be holding your breath every time you start him. Personally.
Exactly. That's just the way the Dolphins are. Their running backs never seem to live up to their ADP. We had the Lamar Miller situation a few years ago. Everyone was hyping him up. Crap the bed the next year. Didn't live up to it. Last year we had Jay Ajayi. Everyone was high on Jay Ajayi. Didn't live up to the ADP. I mean, it's just...
Yep. I mean, I think...
The Dolphins just are not a good situation for running backs, especially now with Frank Gore in town, the ageless wonder. I mean, he's not someone I'm targeting for fantasy, 35. But he's going to be a thorn in Kenyon Drake's side.
I mean... I kind of have Joe Mixon and Kenyon Drake in my rankings at 20 and 21, respectively. I'm low on them. I'm low on them this year, man. There's just other guys that I would rather take. I'd rather have Devontae Freeman, Darius Guice, Jerick McKinnon. This guy right here is 2 guys, actually, I would rather have, and that's Dion Lewis and Derrick Henry. I would rather have either one of those guys.
I'm not too big on either one of those, though, because the Tennessee Titans backfield is just, it's a 50-50 split, so neither one's going to be able to have the upside to be a true fantasy stud. They both could deliver flex value, but their RB2 ADP is just too rich for my blood.
I think that I think that being that they're 50-50 workload for each of them, I think they're going to really benefit from that. They won't. They're both not guys that can legitimately carry maybe a full workload. Maybe Derrick Henry can. Derrick Henry's carried a full workload since back in Alabama. They brought in Murray last year. I think he really learned how to be that big running back that can run down here, downhill, one cut and go. And I think Derrick Henry this year with a running quarterback, let me just take a step back. With running quarterbacks, running backs generally have higher stats throughout the course of a year. That's another reason why I'm out on McCoy, is that he lost Tyrod Taylor. Last year, when Tyrod was in the game, McCoy did a lot better because of the threat that the quarterback could keep the ball.
Right, and McCoy still had a downturn in efficiency last year, even with that. So now that they've downgraded the quarterback, he's going to just avoid him for sure. And we're going to have to wrap up running backs here. We're going to have to get to receivers here pretty soon. Some other running backs not too big on. Mark Ingram due to the 4-game suspension. Then we touched on Ajayi and Lamar Miller, guys. I mean, their ADPs are a little better now, but they're still not guys I would count on as RB2s.
I would be fine with Lamar Miller as running back depth in the later rounds.
Right, but he's not someone to count as your RB2. No. And then another guy we can agree on that is definitely not worth taking. I mean, maybe very late as a flyer, but not even close to being an RB2 is Marshawn Lynch.
He did crack 1,000 yards last year, but
I don't even think he did, to be honest. I mean, and he was the sole back. Now they got Doug Martin in there. It's just no way I'm touching Marshawn Lynch.
He didn't crack 1,000 rushing yards. He had 891 rushing yards, but I think if you add in his receiving, he did have over 1,000 from scrimmage. Let's say that.
Okay.
I think maybe I phrased that wrong.
I mean, it's still not that great in today's day and age. You want at least from your own, at least 12 to 1,500 yards from scrimmage.
Definitely. But moving forward, let's touch base a little bit on some of these wide receivers. I think the one that's going to headline both of our maybe staying away from for their draft position to being too high for a player that's very volatile and up and down and never really know exactly what you're going to get, but when you get it, it's great. When you don't get it, it's like you want to just like throw your phone at the wall. And that's Julio Jones, guys.
Exactly. He's just not someone I'm feeling this year. I've been burned by him too much because he's so inconsistent on a weekly basis. Yeah, one week he might get you 40 points, but that week he gets you 5 points could cost you the week because you're counting on consistent WR1 production out of him. And if he's not delivering that for you on a consistent basis, it's not someone that I'm taken in the first round. I like his ADP, and PPR is now around 11th overall. That's way too high.
And then they added Calvin Ridley. They still have Sanu. They still have their two running backs. A lot of mouths to feed. Julio is still
Julio, but I mean, with other mouths to feed, it could hurt Julio's yardage.
I think we're just more at the beginning of, even though he had 1,400 yards receiving last year, I'm not saying Julio Jones is a bum by any means.
Right, he's still a solid second rounder. He's just not someone that's.
I mean, he's still a first rounder. I think he's going to be a first rounder in most drafts. I think he's still going to get picked in the first round.
If you take Julio first, that's asking for disaster because he's also not going to deliver you the touchdown because he's
he is very low on touchdowns. I believe
in the handy dandy, I was looking up Julio, and he has scored more than 6 TDs only once in the past 5 seasons. I mean, there's no way I would take that in the first round. No way. I mean, he reminds me of Andre Johnson back in the day. He was a very good receiver, but he just did not deliver the touchdowns.
Right, and he is getting older.
Frustrating player to own because it's like if you're going to take a guy first, you want him to be able to give you that game-breaking stuff to win you your week.
And I think,
a lot of weeks.
But see, Julio could do that, but he might give you that one week.
I want someone that's consistent.
Right, you want it every week, like 20-pointer. He might not do that.
Odell, I mean, those are the kind of guys I want. Even Michael Thomas, I mean, but Julio, just no way.
I'm just saying, most people are going to take him probably in the first round. There's going to be guys that take him in the first round. That's a little too high for me, and that's why I'm staying away.
And that's why we're trying to make y'all realize stay away from him because of these factors, the inconsistency and the lack of TDs. But moving on here, we're going to talk about a guy that we kind of disagree on here, and that's Keenan Allen. I mean, I'm just not a Keenan Allen guy. He had a great year last year, but he's been injured 2 of the past 3 years with both pretty serious injuries, and he's just not someone I'm really targeting. I know Phillip Rivers loves him, but he's another one kind of like Julio, doesn't really get the touchdowns. I think he only had like 6 TDs last year. I mean, he is a PPR gem. I will admit that. Good second round value there.
He was
PPR,
4th overall in receptions with 102.
He's just not someone I'm going to really feel comfortable taking there in round 2. I'd much rather like a Devontae Adams.
What's his average draft position right now, Keenan Allen? It's about second round.
Let's see here.
I think it's a second round
pulled up.
Honestly,
Yeah,
I'm
it is
perfectly
somewhere
fine.
around then. It is
I'm
somewhere
completely
around
fine
there.
with taking
It's
a Keenan Allen in the second round. Let's think about his
16th
injuries.
overall, but it's just I wouldn't
16th
touch
overall,
him
that's
that
top of
high.
the second round. If you're somebody who is like in the 10th, 11th spot, and you grab you for some reason Melvin Gordon, and I know sometimes you want to like stay away from the two players and your first two picks on the
Right,
same
right.
team,
Yeah, I
but
definitely
these
wouldn't
guys
recommend
stand
that
alone.
strategy.
Sometimes the players just stand alone. I mean, you could hold Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown. I know they're not the same players, but
Right, I wouldn't mind that, but even Melvin Gordon's just not someone that's to me
oh,
a
me and
first
you differ.
rounder
Oh,
on that.
I think Melvin Gordon is a
He
first
just doesn't
rounder for
deliver that
sure.
wild production like a Leonard Fournette or
But he's
even
going to
an
deliver
Alvin
the wild
Kamara.
volume. He's going to get
He
the
does have
carries.
the volume, and that's
And
why I think he is worth an early second.
well, I see. I could definitely put Melvin Gordon in my first, and I can definitely put Keenan Allen in my top of the second, mid-second rounders. Lucky for me, though, in one of my leagues, he's my keeper, and I'm gonna probably keep him in the third round. But
Right, that's good
but I
value.
think Keenan Allen. I think you're going to be satisfied because the two injuries that he had with the ACL, it happens, and then the year before that
It was
was a
a
spleen.
lacerated kidney,
It was
something
kidney or
like that.
spleen.
Yeah, it was pretty
That's a freak
serious.
That's a serious
I know
injury,
it's a
but
freak,
it's a freak
accident, but
accident.
it's hard for me to feel. It's just hard for my gut to tell me to trust that kind of
Look,
player
man,
because
in a
it's just
PPR
I'm not
league, the
feeling
only
it.
the only three guys that had more receptions than Keenan Allen were Michael Thomas with 104, Larry
Right,
Fitz with
love Michael
109,
Thomas this year. Fitz
and
gets slept on by a
and
lot
Jarvis
of people.
Landry.
And
Jarvis
then
Landry
Jarvis
had
Landry
112.
too, solid PPR value.
I still like Jarvis. You could take him in the third and be very happy with him. I
It's a
think.
little high, but he's someone
third,
I could
fourth
take.
round.
Yeah, in the fourth, I would.
But this guy is somebody that I really I'm staying away from. I'm trading him away in dynasty leagues and other leagues last year, and that's T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah,
Too dependent on Andrew Luck.
Exactly, and Luck's just not dependable, guys. We'll touch on him later on when we talk about the
Sure.
quarterbacks to avoid. He's just not dependable at all. The shoulder just always seems to be bugging him. He's barely even just started throwing, and I mean that's kind of scary. I mean, if he should have been 100% by now, but he's still kind of limping along there. Just I don't know. To me, if he's not 100% by preseason, I'm just completely avoiding T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah, if Luck was back and he was fully healthy, he went into OTAs prior to today doing the Duke football, which is just like a big high school football. Then we've been hearing reports of Andrew Luck throwing the ball, but it's not much. I mean, once we can hear that he's taking hits and he's slinging the ball, then we can come back to T.Y. Hilton and we can sit here and discuss T.Y. Hilton for the next 30 minutes on why maybe he should be picked in the second round. But for now, if he's anywhere before the sixth round for me, I'm not taking T.Y.
Right,
Hilton.
I mean, I know you got to risk it to get the biscuit sometimes,
Yeah.
but to me, T.Y. Hilton is just. That's a stupid risk.
Yeah,
I mean, Andrew
that's
Luck
somebody
is
you
just
stay
not
away
someone
from.
I'm touching. And moving on here, other receivers I'm not too big on are Alshon Jeffrey and Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper, I feel
like they're the same
little more
player.
optimistic about because he's younger, has more upside, getting talked up a lot by John Gruden, saying he'll be the focal point of the offense. So I feel like Cooper could possibly break out. He's just another one, though, very inconsistent on a weekly basis. Very frustrating to own. Jeffrey's someone I'm avoiding in all formats. I do not like Jeffrey at all this season.
If I can get Jeffrey to be a flex, I'm happy. I mean, let's just say
I guess
that.
I wouldn't mind him as a flex,
I'm
but his
not sure
current
his-
ADP is way too high. I believe he's like
ADP
a third
right
round
now
ADP, and
is
that's
a 50.
insane right now.
I got him as ADP on Fantasy Pros as 52nd overall average draft position.
Oh, okay.
So,
Well, he may have dropped a little bit, but I'm still not
that's
feeling
fourth,
it.
fifth round pick. Depending on the size
I'm
of
still
your
not
league.
feeling it. Maybe 6, but even that's just. I mean, with Ertz there is Wentz's favorite weapon. Aguilar's emerging. I know we both like Aguilar.
we like
so I'm
Aguilar
just,
this year.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not touching Jeffrey.
I hear that.
But, moving on here, we can
you want to
discuss-
touch on the Broncos wide receivers, man?
Right, and those are other guys that give me the bubble guts. Demarius Thomas.
Oh, bubble guts.
Demarius
Wow.
Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, guys. I mean, back in the Peyton Manning days, I loved those guys. They were safe, consistent WR1s, but now they're
Right.
just guys. They're fringe WR2s, probably more flex play. Thomas, I could maybe still see as a WR2. Sanders is just an iffy flex play at this point. Neither one are.
If
very
I had to
impressive.
choose
Both
between
getting
the
up
two,
in age, and they got some younger receivers now in there. It's just I'm not feeling
yeah,
either one.
I mean, I get it, but for me, if I had to own one of the two, I would rather Emmanuel Sanders based on
He's
where his
probably a little
average.
better value.
Right. Well,
but
I mean,
just-
he's
he had a
going as
terrible year
88th
last year.
overall. I mean, if you're in a 12-man league, that's basically a 6th, 7th round pick, probably a 7th round.
Yeah, he could maybe be
Thomas
flex.
is 47th.
But yeah,
That's definitely
Thomas,
a
you got it.
fourth-round
If you're going to
pick.
take his WR2. I mean, Case Keenum, though, he does like to throw it. Last year with Diggs and Thielen, they had good years. But I don't think Thomas and Sanders are that good. I mean, Diggs and Thielen are young, up-and-coming receivers. But those guys are just, they're getting on the wrong side of 30. Just not guys I'm targeting this year.
And then they drafted their heir apparents in Cortland Sutton and Deshaun Hamilton.
Exactly,
we're going to see what happens with them. They still have Carlos Henderson. So we're going to see what happens in that offense. I mean, Case Keenum probably gives them a little bit of a bump. So if you take them and they ball out, you'd look great. Oh, sure, right?
Right,
I mean,
they're not going to be total bust like last year. But I just don't feel like.
Flex.
But people, I think, like, especially the Sheep rankings, they want to remember the days back when they were with Peyton Manning and pay for past production. I do not pay for past production. I want to pay for future production because that's what wins you championships.
Sure.
Past production is not going to get it done.
Well,
and another guy that I feel like that's getting overdrafted, people are paying on his past production, is Brandon Cooks. They're remembering the days back when he was with Drew Brees, and then last year with Tom Brady as like a favorite weapon, and he did well. But I mean, now that he's with the Rams, they love to spread the ball, and he's going to most likely fill that Sammy Watkins deep threat role. And as we saw last year with Watkins, super inconsistent, not even worth owning most weeks. So
Watkins
I'm avoiding
definitely
Cooks
just
in all
opened the
leagues
field
this
for
year.
him. Cooks has been over 1,000 yards since he came in the league, but he also had Tom Brady and Drew Brees throwing him the ball. He's now got Jared Goff in a different offense, in a third offense in 3 years. He's got to relearn that. He's got time to do it. I see Brandon Cooks still being somewhat productive. I don't see him being a bust.
He'll have his weeks. He will have his weeks, but I don't like playing matchups like that. I'd rather just have a safe, consistent guy.
Well,
That's my
let me ask you
WR2.
this.
I'm not touching Brandon
Let me ask you this. If you had the choice, due to their current average draft position, would you rather Demaryius Thomas or Brandon Cooks?
I would go with DT. I just feel like it's safe for production. I mean,
and maybe
Cooks,
bigger touchdown upside.
Yeah, and Cooks is just, I mean, he's just so volatile at this point in that offense. I mean, and you know me, I like to gamble. I don't really like to just go for the safe production, but kind of like with Hilton, to me, Cooks is just too big of a risk. I'm not touching that.
I think I would honestly probably take Brandon Cooks in this position. I mean, if I'm right there and I have the choice between those two guys and I need a wide receiver, I'll probably take Brandon Cooks and hope to throw him in my flex. And he just had me those big games in a bonus league where, you know, you get extra points for 50, 75-yard touchdowns, and hey, you get a touchdown, the bonus, the catch, everything.
It's not going to be on a weekly basis. That's why I'm avoiding it. But other receivers here, we're about to shift gears to quarterbacks and tight ends. But before we do, let's touch on these three receivers here that we're in agreement here.
We agree on.
Right, these are the ones that are not worth. I mean, they could maybe take them if they slip drastically, but they're all getting overdrafted. And one of them is Julian Edelman, due to the suspension, not worth taking. He's getting up in age as well, getting way overdrafted. Jordy Nelson, another one there.
Don't want him.
Lost Aaron Rodgers, don't want any part of him. Kelvin Benjamin in a terrible Bills offense. We touched on that with McCoy. Has no quarterback to throw to. He's just getting... He's not even that old, though, but he just looked done last year. He looked sluggish, overweight. Just not someone I'm touching. Deshaun Jackson with Winston suspended, not touching him. He's just super inconsistent anyway. Never a fan of him. And then Des Bryant, until he signs with a team, do not draft him. I mean, wait till he signs, and unless he signs in a good situation, I want no part of this.
Yeah, and the only situation that I'm grabbing Des Bryant is if he goes over to Green Bay. And
right,
I don't
Green
really
Bay
see
or
Green
San
Bay
Francisco, but I mean, we don't know at this point.
Exactly.
So until he signs, just avoid him.
Exactly.
All right. Well, let's shift gears here to
You want to go to quarterbacks?
QBs. All right, and the first quarterback to me that's just getting overvalued is Carson Wentz. I'm just not a Wentz guy this year.
I'm just being weary on Wentz. If I'm in a draft, redraft leagues, I'm probably more or less staying away. But if he falls to me in like the 10th, 11th round, and I need a backup quarterback because I drafted out
right. The thing is, though, his ADP is like 5th round. And
right, and he's not going to go that far, especially for a guy that may not even start the season.
Exactly. There's no way.
He got hurt late last year. I mean, and then Foles came in. He had won the Super Bowl MVP. We know the whole hoopla with that.
Yeah, and they're not going to rush Wentz back. And I mean, he's just with the depth at the quarterback position, he's not worth the risk there in the 5th round.
This guy we don't. This next guy though, we do not agree on.
Right, and that's Cam Newton. I've never been a Cam Newton guy. I know you like him, Commissioner, but I'm just not a Newton fan.
You know why I like Cam Newton, man? Because of the running upside. I mean, some weeks he's very inconsistent. inconsistent.
Right,
And
that's
Cam
why I
Newton's
just
in
can't
his
stand him.
feels.
If I'm gonna take a guy early, I want that. Like I said, I'm gonna keep hearing this point home.
Sure.
Safe, consistent
I get
production.
that. I get
Like
that.
Brady, Breeze, Rodgers, and to me, Cam just isn't up there as far as that. He usually has a similar point total to them, but it's not on the consistent basis.
Just for like his, like I'm going back to his average draft position. Let me see where he's at. He's getting taken 62nd overall in most drafts. So say we're in a 12-man league, that's about a 5th-round pick. I'm just kind of approximately guessing.
That
I probably wouldn't take him there.
Touching him there.
I probably wouldn't take him there. But if your draft, because I know mine won't go this way, but if your draft is having a crazy run on quarterbacks, and for some reason Cam Newton is there in the 5th, then the ladder of Rodgers, Wilson, Brady, Brees, Cousins, Stafford, Luck are all going. I don't know. I just threw out some names. I might be sitting there thinking
I still would take Cam obviously over Luck. I mean, because that's another one we don't like. Andrew Luck, guys, do not touch him until he's 100%. I mean, he's just not. I mean, he's just not someone I'm touching. Another one we're in agreement on that we don't like is Big Ben Roethlisberger.
He's just fickle. He's
so
back and forth.
frustrating to own. I mean, he is a good QB, but he's so frustrating to own. Not worth it considering the depth of the quarterback position. You want a quarterback to where he can feel comfortable and not have to feel obligated to have a backup. Where if you take Big Ben in, you're going to have to go and take like a Matt Ryan or Dak Prescott to back him up. And I mean, Matt Ryan or Dak could easily outdo Ben this year, so I'm not touching Ben on any of my
His
teams.
average draft position is 105. So, I mean, if you're taking him right there, I'm sure you already have, your 2 RBs, your 2 wide receivers, and probably a tight end and a flex already on your team. And if you're looking at Big Ben around the 10th round,
I'd much rather Phil Rivers or Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, I was going to say something around that, too, because I do like Matt Stafford. I've always liked Matt Stafford.
Right, he's a
4,000-yard passer. Yeah. He's going to get you those yards. Let me see. He passed last year for 4,400 yards. That's what I'm saying.
Him and Rivers could get up to 4,500 yards. They're both good sleeper values.
So if you can get Stafford, man, if you can get Stafford in the 10th or 11th round with 29
I can
touchdowns,
live with that. I mean, I can
29
live with
touchdowns,
that.
4,400 yards.
I mean, it's not like you're sweating it every week. You're not worried about whether he gets hurt. The guy's super durable. Yeah,
super durable. He's got a squad this year.
Right, and you got to respect that for fantasy. I mean,
we're not looking at the old Lions
QBs
anymore.
Stay healthy anymore. Even Rodgers had his share of injuries last year, but I mean, Matthew Stafford, he's an Iron Man. He plays week in and week out.
I'm going to throw out a quarterback that I'm not really high on. I know it's not on these notes, our show notes, but just to hurry up and throw one out there, and that's Jameis Winston.
Right, don't touch Winston, guys. Suspended 3 games. He's obviously not mature. Still not groping Uber drivers.
Yeah, whatever he's doing.
You're supposed to be the leader of the team. I mean, that's bad. If he does anything else, the league's saying they could ban him. So, I mean
feel
bad
for
the Bucs, but not
yards.
really, though. I'm a Saints fan.
He did throw for 3,500 yards, but his touchdown production was just so terrible. He only had 19 touchdowns last year. I'm not sure about interceptions. Let's see how many he had. Man, I wish I'd have known this about Cam Newton. But anyways, Winston still had 11 interceptions. So 29 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. Not the greatest ratio, and his yards are all right.
It's not that bad, but it's not worth taking. No. He's in the suspension. When he comes back, it's going to probably be an awkward stage coming back.
Yeah, it takes a few weeks to get ahead. And then, I'm just staying away because if he is getting drafted, let's see, right now, it's probably falling already. I don't even
think he shouldn't even be drafted. To me, he's undraftable. So let's not worry about him. Let's shift gears here to tight ends. And a tight end, I know he's the number 1 tight end. He's actually is my number 1 tight end, but I'm avoiding him in all leagues, and that's Rob Gronkowski.
Yeah, he's not my number 1, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, I mean, Gronk, I'm staying away from. He wants to retire. He doesn't want to retire. He might go to the WWE. Maybe he's sleeping with porn stars still. I don't know what he's doing.
He's crazy. I mean, he's a party animal. He is a beast. But he's not someone I want on my team, especially not in the second round.
I'm not.
Not in the second round. Not even close. Nope. I'd much rather a safe, consistent running back there, like a Joe Mixon or Jordan Howard, or even like a Tyreek Hill, Josh Gordon. Somebody with.
I'm just not wasting that high of a pick.
It's like Gronk, in the first or second round. He's gonna have some sort of nagging injury every year. It seems like now, and he's just. Yep. I just am not touching him round 2. I don't touch any tight ends round 2, but Gronk. I mean, he's just. I know he's probably still the best in the business, and he is when he's healthy, but his health is not dependable enough for me to take.
Him and Kelsey are basically last year pretty
yeah, and I mean
togetherness.
Yeah, Kelsey and Ertz, we can touch on them too. They're guys They are very safe, consistent. If you can get them maybe to late third, early fourth, right now their ADPs are just a little too high for me.
I think I would take Kelsey if I'm in the fourth round for sure.
Yeah, I would too.
Over Gronk. I like Kelsey in the fourth because I could
There's
definitely
no way
have.
Gronk makes it to the fourth though, because the sheep hype him up so much.
Well, right, and this
They
is a
love
show
him,
not
that's
talking about. This is a show to talk about like don't go off with the
right,
sheep are
yeah,
saying.
and they always
So
tell
might
people to
slip.
take Gronk, and it seems like I play leagues every year, and the team that takes Gronk never does well.
Right,
They
yeah.
never do well. They say, "Oh, I got Gronk. Well, you never win.
Sure. Last year,
so
Jared
don't
Cook was
take
alright.
him. He's not going to win you your title. He's just always a headache. Not
Well,
like
not
the
anymore.
headache.
Yeah, but I would rather Kelsey for sure. I know you don't want really any of those
Right,
tight
I don't
ends.
want any early tight ends. Probably the earliest tight end maybe be Greg Olson, but I usually like to wait on tight ends and
Right.
take like a Kyle Rudolph or Trey
And
Burton.
the next two guys we don't actually agree on. Like you would rather one than the other, and I would rather the vice versa. And that would be Evan Ingram and Jordan Reed.
Right. Neither one I'm big on, though. I'm not a huge Ingram guy,
No.
but I do have to admit that he is a safe, solid player. That even with Odell and Saquon back, he could still deliver about 7th round redraft value. Where
Sure.
Jordan Reed, I just do not like at all. He seems to always be injured. I mean, he's just a chronic injury waiting to happen. He always seems to be banged up. His quarterback situation isn't improved. I mean, Alex Smith isn't bad, but it's like, I mean, I think he really liked working with Kirk Cousins, but he's just never healthy, never dependable, and I don't like rostering 2 tight ends, and the fact is, if you take Jordan Reed, you're going to feel obligated to take a backup tight end. I don't like having to do that. I don't want to have that crutch, I want to have that flexibility to take a
that makes
young
sense.
rookie running back like in Naeem Hines or Jordan Wilkins, I just don't want to feel obligated to have to take some idiot backup tight
Well,
end.
let me just say
worth
this.
it.
The reason I don't want Evan Ingram, there's a lot of mouths to feed in New York
Right,
Giants.
I
But the
understand
reason
that,
I would want...
with Brandon Marshall out of there, that clears the way for targets for like that number 3, behind Odell and Shepard.
Yeah, well, the reason I would want, the counter argument to that about Jordan Reed, the reason I would want him is because just a couple years ago, we were talking about Gronk, Kelsey, Reed, and Ertz being the top 4 tight ends in the league. He's been banged up for the last 2 years.
That's another guy though, that the smart fantasy owners stayed away from, and it paid off because
that was then, and we're hoping that now coming in with a quarterback like Alex Smith who loves the tight end position,
right,
hence
that
the
is
Kelsey.
true. He does like the tight end.
But what I'm saying is if you can get Jordan Reed at his average drafted position of 83rd overall versus Evan Ingram, who is 58th, so almost
Ingram
30
is not
picks.
someone I'm targeting. I'd much rather like a Delaney Walker, Kyle Rudolph, even Jimmy Graham. I'm not a Jimmy Graham guy, but even he's better ADP value than Ingram right now.
Yeah, I just would well, actually, Graham is still going before Ingram, but I would rather take Jordan Reed later, and then
Graham's
if I had to
I'm
double
not big
back.
on because he's going to get pumped up there due to Rodgers, and he will get the touchdowns, but he's not going to get the yards that he used to. So I'm staying away from him for the most part. Rudolph's my guy over there at tight end. And
I like this year in tight end in later rounds, the Trey Burtons, the
Trey
Jordan
Burton,
Reeds,
David Njoku,
and OJ Howard.
Not
actually,
Reed at all.
People are sleeping on OJ Howard. So you know what? If you're listening out there, keep him in mind as maybe like the 15th round, and you just grab this guy.
Cameron Braid's still there. And he got paid. So
do your homework on Jordan Howard. We don't have a whole lot of time today to get into Jordan Howard. OJ Howard. I'm sorry. Do your thank you for correcting me. But do your homework into OJ Howard. He had a better year than you expected.
I don't like 2 tight end offenses, and that's exactly the reason why I do not like Jack Doyle, who we're about to discuss. I don't like Doyle this year, and that's because they signed Eric Ebron.
Well, I think Doyle last year had like a very, very ridiculous amount of targets. I'm trying to see.
Yeah, he had a sneaky good year last year.
Yeah,
he
actually
did pretty well, but with Ebron in there, it's just they're gonna spread the ball out more. And even with all those targets, Doyle still wasn't like a stud.
And then you also have
he's not someone I want, especially with. We touched on luck, spotty health. I just
and then you have Brissett coming back, but then this last guy, if you're drafting him. Please invite me into your league so I can win it, because you should not be drafting this guy.
Right, and that is Tyler Eifert.
Why would you draft him?
Do not draft this guy. He's always injured. He's already injured. He's even worse than
Click
Jordan Reed.
Click the comment box. Tell me why you draft him.
Do not draft him, guys. Do not be a sheep. The sheep, he might come back. He might come back. No, he's
not coming back.
Awful. He's the guy always injured.
Tell me why I should draft him.
Yeah, we can agree on that for sure.
If you have a reason, add me on Instagram. Instagram at
Yeah, do
Commissioner
not
_Crook,
take-
and we can have a debate on why you should leave Tyler Eifert alone.
Yes,
But
please do not take him. Do not waste a pick. That's the key to fantasy, guys. If you
Sure.
waste picks, it's just stupid. I mean,
Right.
if you waste
Well,
picks, it's going to cost you.
you know.
Because that late round pick that you wasted on Eifert, you could have possibly had the next Alvin Kamara.
Yeah,
Why
maybe
would
so.
you waste it on Eifert when you could take a guy that
Yes,
could
in
win
an
you your
11th
league?
round or
There's
something.
no point in that. So.
You know, but you know, before our heads blow off about why some people are, drafting Tyler Eifert, I think it's a good segue to go ahead and tell our fans goodbye, and then we'll see them next week. How about that, Spencer?
Right. I actually might be doing another smaller episode
That's right. You
here
did tell me about that.
in the middle of the week, but if not, then we'll see y'all next week. We'll be keeping these episodes pumping though. We're gonna hit y'all hard with the facts and just keep tuning in here to Guru Nation, and then with my man Commish, we're changing the game. We're gonna get y'all to the top this year. So just keep watching these podcasts. Follow us on Instagram,
Definitely.
Fantasy Guru Commissioner Crook. We'll give y'all the advice y'all need to get to the top.
Right, and you can always follow me on Twitter at Mr. Crook89 or
Right,
on
my
Instagram.
Twitter is Spencer the Guru as well. Not too big on Twitter, but I mean, if y'all are on that format, want to hit me up, feel free.
And if you're on Instagram, you can always follow me at Commissioner _Crook and follow my
Right.
Dynasty League.
Right, he's a big Dynasty guy. So if y'all need Dynasty help, make sure to go to Commish. I'll do my best to help y'all, but if y'all want like the Dynasty expert,
I'm your
advice,
guy.
go to
I
Crook.
promise you,
I'm the
I'll lead you to
redraft guy in
success.
Dynasty, but
Yep.
it's all good. All right, well that wraps it up. Thanks for tuning in.
See y'all later,
see
guys.
y'all later.